haven't done one of these in a long time. I think they used to be called, what, video logs, vlogs, whatever. Point is, I haven't done one of these in a long time, and I'm finally ready to show off something I've been working on for a while. It is what I'm calling a GM kit for a 5th edition adventure set in Eberron for 3rd level characters. My goal with this document is that you pick it up as a GM, and it's got everything you need. A few of them are going to be links to D&D Beyond, but everything that you need to run this adventure from the beginning, whether you're new or experienced. I'm going to run you through this. We're going to only touch on the adventure a little bit, mainly because I only want to touch on the stuff in there that's new, and I feel like I did this once where I talked about the adventure in detail, and it just got really long, and if you're not interested in the adventure, it's boring. But I'm going to tell you how to use this GM kit, and then give you the links below where you can go download it. As you'll see, this is using an Adobe PDF portfolio. It's got a variety of documents in here. The battle maps in a zip, the player handout, all of the character sheets. It's also got the PDF here. I don't know why I put the battle maps in twice. Just look, it's the first one, just go with it. And then also a zip that includes all of the character sheets as well as tokens in case you're using Roll20 or another battle map tool. Here we give you how to start. So this opening is my general. I've been DMing now for what, over 20 years? It feels like that, maybe longer. And this gives you just some things I've learned, some basic how to GM before we get into more 5th edition specific stuff. If you've never run D&D before, this gives you a link to the basic rules, and then what I consider the golden rules for D&D. You know, roll d20 to hit a target number, the 3 kinds of rolls: attack rolls, saving throws, ability checks, advantage and disadvantage, and inspiration. You learn all of that, and you pretty much understand enough about D&D to run an adventure and learn the rest as you go. You don't need to know what every spell does. You just need to know how to adjudicate a spell, which most spells are going to be, is it a saving throw or is it an attack roll? And then if it's not one of those, then the text in the spell you get to interpret. We have a list of what you'll need to run the adventure. You know, dice. No one loves D12s. That's just a fact of life. How many players you need. What I think you'll need. I've got a link to the Eberron wiki because, again, this is set in Eberron. So the more you know about Eberron, the easier it'll be to run. And the less, as you read through this document, you're going to come up with and hit Eberron ideas like the lightning rail that the entire adventure is on, or specific planes related to Eberron, and you might help to know a little bit about the setting. Where possible, I have put links to those elements in here, but here's just the Eberron wiki, and it's just good to know. And then you'll see more of these GM kits hopefully throughout the year, and so with each one, there's going to be what makes this system different, and therefore the system you should run. I let you know, like, here's what's going to be in each section, here's how to read it, here's the beauty of stat blocks, and an important note that I wish they would put in more places, which is that on my stat blocks, everything that's written out has already added in all of the relevant bonuses. You don't need to go in and be like, okay, it says he's proficient in wisdom, he's got a 12 wisdom, he's only got a 1 here, so did they forget to add the plus his proficiency bonus? Don't have to do any of that. I've done it all in these stat blocks. If you have to go to Beyond for a stat block because it's a standard monster, we're just stealing from there. Unfortunately, you'll have to read their stat blocks, which they're not that bad. They are not as indecipherable as some 3035 stat blocks were. A breakdown of how magic items look here. And then a quick rundown of the adventure, including the fact that it is in daylight, because there is at least one of the pre-generated characters that matters too. Probably could have found a prettier way to say it was in daylight, but honestly, part of the joy of these GM kits is that sometimes my notes are just kind of funny. Anyway, one of the things that are in each of these sections I think is important is the what's really going on here section for GMs. So after you've read everything to the players, you've read what's going on, this gives you the information you need to effectively run an adventure. This is just the stuff you need to know. Some of its background that might come out if the players investigate some, but they don't have to. You've got everything you need right here on what's really going on in each section. The next thing that I think is important, if we scroll down a little bit, is what I call combat flowcharts. D&D fights generally don't last more than 5 to 8 rounds, but if nothing happens in those 5 to 8 rounds, except for the bad guys and the good guys smash at each other until hit point equals 0, they're not really interesting. So with these combat flowcharts, I try to give you ideas of what else is going on. For example, the first fight that happens here, players are getting on a train, so they're on a train platform, obviously. There's going to be a whole bunch of commoners around. How do the bad guys react to these commoners? How should the good guys react to them? What's going on, right? And then, more bad guys join the fight. If the players are, drag it out too long, some friends join in. There's someone in a burning building that the players need to save. Neat things like that exist in these combat flowcharts throughout the adventure to give you, the GM, some things to help make combat more interesting than good guys and bad guys trying to reduce hit points to 0. That is the very brief overview of the adventure. I'm not going to go room by room. Here's what's going on here. Here's what's going on there. The story of this adventure is very simple. A bunch of people called the Greenlights, some of whom are veterans of what in Eberron is called the Last War, or who are sympathetic to those, decided that they were going to break into a temple in Sharn, steal a valuable relic, and escape via the lightning rail. And our heroes are people who have various affiliations who want to stop them and get the relic back. The people who run the lightning rail are the House Orien, hence our wonderful pun of a title, Robbery on the Orien Express, which means that our players are going to get to fight along the lightning rail. Speaking of the lightning rail, the one important rule that I think you'll want to understand going in, well, there's two, but one is embarrassing for me and one is interesting. As soon as I told you that this was going to be a fight on a train, if you're a good GM, if you're the sort of GM who does what you're supposed to, you thought, how do I knock my players off this train? There's some opportunities to do that, don't you worry. There's some opportunities to derail the cars they're on. Plenty of fun, but problem. If you knock a player off your train, they can't continue the adventure. So, how do we let you threaten knocking them off the train without it ending the fun? Thankfully, the simple fact is, in D&D, hit points are abstract, right? 1 point of damage isn't like getting a cut on your nose. 10 points of damage isn't like getting, shot in the face. Hit points are what the basic rules call this like combination of durability, the will to live, and luck. So, for here, because getting knocked off the train is exactly what we expect, we have just turned it into you take damage if you would have gotten knocked off the train and fail a death saving throw, and then you basically stop your movement at the edge of the train. Unless, I guess, they fail their third death saving throw, and then you can have them dramatically fly off the train, or if a monster reaches 0 hit points because of it, you can have them fly off the train. Just have fun with it. But don't have so much fun with it that you accidentally knock a player off of the train at the second encounter and then they just sit there twiddling their thumbs. The second rule to know is that I, honest to God, thought that there was a condition that halved your speed called slow. I was wrong, but I was not aware I was wrong until I was so far into this that I didn't want to rewrite it. So there you go. There's a line of information there. One of the other things to note, first class cars. The first time I ran this adventure, this NPC who's possessed by a spirit of Fernia, which is an Eberron fire plane. You don't need to care. They were possessed, but there was no way for the players to stop that possession. And so we've added in here a way for the players to do it by changing up some of the prepared spells and giving a potion that's got a protection from good and evil to one of the non-casters. The group that has these options includes a paladin, a cleric, and the fighter. And I just can't imagine a party of 4 not having one of those 3. But just in case your group does, drop a potion of protection from good and evil or a scroll of protection from good and evil somewhere in the adventure before this point, just to give them this opportunity. Other than that, I feel like this is a much better explanation of what these GM kits are. The first time around, I was like 45 minutes of rambling about each individual encounter and why I thought they were neat. But you don't really need that. You just need to know there's this tool, and I'm going to give you a link to my blog that will have not much more in depth. It probably won't have much more besides, hey, here's that GM kit, watch the video. But there you are. If you've got questions, feel free to let me know. And if you do run this, I'd like to know if you end up liking it, if you end up hating it, if your players end up liking it. Those would all be great. I used, again, the Eberron Wiki was a big help in writing this adventure because, honestly, when I started this, all I knew is that I wanted to have an adventure on a lightning train. So the Eberron Wiki helped me make this feel like it's an adventure set in Eberron, and not just that I was stealing Eberron because I wanted that one idea. I like that Eberron Wiki. The battle maps I made using the dungeon map doodlers, and all of the tokens use D&D Beyond art using the pre-generated faces that they gave us. So if you need new tokens because you don't like that, whatever. But there you go. So thanks again, and let me know if you like the GM kit. I think the next GM kit we're working on is for a Tachyon Squadron using the Fate system, and that'll probably come out Marchish, and we'll see. I like this setup, I like this format, and I've been wanting to do space opera for a while, so I'm excited for Tachyon Squadron. Thank you again.